picked yet, so we don't need to go into it just yet. Let's hop into the draft instead and see exactly where the priorities are going to lie. Of course, Renata being available is the only thing that's changed here. We are still on 12.4, of course, and Nongshim do have the blue side. Let's see how these bans are going to go, because Hecarim, I think, we're all looking at. Dread and Pyoshik, both of these players do very much like the pick, so you could imagine that Nongshim, they're not too priced into banning it just yet, but do expect that one to be locked in first.
We also see we have seen a huge increase in Akali's priority here in the LCK, so I do appreciate Nongshim banning that one away straight off the bat.
Yep, I feel like T1 knew this first, because they've been first banning Akali in almost every single game that they've had for the last 4 weeks.
Yeah.
But not a lot of other teams have, and we saw Akali really pop off last week as
She's playing so well into Gwen. She's obviously very strong into Lee Sin, so 2 picks that are very prevalent in the meta as no Deft Jinx, not in this first game. That one is taken away. Does open up a lot of possibilities here. Now the Hecarim, I think, is a pretty much required ban for DRX, but they leave it open.
Oh, they are baiting the Ryze pick right now.
Yeah.
They want Nongshim to be like, oh, Ryze is available? That was on the tier list last week. We should definitely pick it up. But no, Nongshim are not going to fall for it. They will pick the scary horse. And so now Nongshim, they have the opportunity to go towards more of that dive, but also Dread with a lot of early game agency. As DRX looking to answer.
Ahri Lee Sin is available. You know, you have the ability to lock up something like the Aphelios with Jinx ban, but remember, Karma still open, the Caitlyn's still open, even though we haven't seen it picked into these lower range champions in lane so much. Last week in particular was largely ignored, as we will see the Ahri to lock in here.
Yeah, this is dangerous though, I think. Spioshik's going to hover his namesake in the Kindred, but Ahri locked in. This is something that DRX actually did to their opposition, right? They picked the Vex into it and were able to really get some work done. As now we're looking for double resets here on the side of DRX. I actually kind of like this idea, really focus in on that single target pick style composition. Still has a lot of early game power.
Works well with the Kai'Sa too, you know. We were going to go down that path again.
Yeah, wouldn't mind it.
Still too early to tell, of course, is Nongshim, you know, you're looking for control now over a soul lane with the Hecarim pick that you have, the Tryndamere, a great choice. And you can't just go ahead and pick up the Nautilus, not a shocker here. Slows down a lot of the aggressive dive forward that DRX are looking for, but also gives you great follow-up and setup for the Hecarim pick. Tryndamere side laning is fantastic. Makes it very difficult here for DRX to pick an AD carry that wants to kind of sit back and just hyper carry, you know, but Jinx already banned here. The Kai'Sa does really kind of stand out as a pick that would work well with this, and a pick that Deft has played a lot, but they're going to save it for later, and we'll play the Gwen into the Tryndamere.
Yep, I don't mind the Gwen, although she has been a bit of a trap recently, but they have seen the Tryndamere face up, and Gwen does lane relatively well into the Trynd, especially here on this patch, before she has been nerfed a little bit with that snippy range.
Zilean ban is pretty smart here, I think, considering you already have really one strong side laner. You don't necessarily need to have one that could split push very strong with Tryndamere, you know, on the board. And Nongshim are definitely going to be going down the path of having a later game AD carry that is going to, you know, farm up. It's something like the Jhin also is still a great opportunity for Ghost to play in this composition. As long as he positions well, as he always does. I wouldn't mind a Jhin ban here, to be honest, for DRX, because I don't think they want to play that themselves at all.
Yeah, I mean, it depends what they want to do, right? Because Kai'Sa does really well into Jhin that wants to sit back, right? He presses his curtain call, then you Void Seek onto him, and then, you know, you can use your ult and then kill him, is kind of the theory. Vex going to be banned away, though. I really like this ban. Really answering BDD here with 2 of the picks that he does like to gravitate towards. I didn't really like how they navigated their Zilean comp last time around, but Nongshim really did look out of sorts last week, so I don't want to draw too many conclusions from that.
Removing the Leona here in already a fairly support-thinned situation for DRX is not a bad choice.
Kind of like the Aphelios ban here, just because Nongshim did have a lot of I want to go in, and so red light gun's going to be scary, but Kai'Sa is going to be the answer here.
I think the Aphelios ban is not terrible considering, you know, what is available, and there is a decent amount of frontline for him, and he could pop off, but I feel like the Kai'Sa was just such the perfect pick, and because DRX are red side and they had pick priority here, would have liked to see that one instead and try to see a response to the Aphelios, because Caitlyn Karma, you know, something we could have seen if they were expecting to see the Aphelios. They locked in the Nautilus, and it will be BDDs this year.
The more things change, the more they stay the same, you know?
Yep, and we've seen this one played out quite a bit into the Ahri. The Ahri getting the better end of it early.
Thinking about it, Beryl could play Renata if he wanted to. The Nautilus has been locked in already for Nongshim, but they've gotten rid of a couple of engaged tools. There is still the Rakan, and Kai'Sa Rakan has always been a fairly decent lane if they wanted to get a little bit more of that engage potential. So not expecting Renata to come through here, definitely expecting the Jhin, but no, it's going to be the Xayah, as Ghost is going to have a little bit more safety here. Beryl going to go with the hover for a moment. We'll see whether he does lock her away. I think they do need a little bit more engage.
Very strong into the Hecarim, obviously the Nautilus, you know, and Xayah to a certain extent when she is coming in and doing her damage in a team fight, but yeah, it's a little bit lacking. I like the Alistar a lot more because you're going to want to have a little bit more strong engage with this comp that wants to run forward and get picks.
Yeah, and also provides you with some sort of tankiness. So both of the supports baiting us there just a little bit, but wasn't really expecting it to go that way just because we do rely a lot on our supports to have as much engage potential as possible here in the LCK. It's just sort of a thing that we do. But a lot of purple there from the bottom side of the map, and Beryl is one of the best Alistar players, you know, that we've had here in the LCK. Of course, not quite up there with players like Marta from back in the day, but still an absolutely phenomenal Alistar player.
The Xayah pick here, I think, is really quite nice for Nongshim. You already have the Nautilus, the Hecarim, the Tryndamere who can run in the Tryndamim. The Tryndamim? You're going to go in there with that. Then you have, obviously, with the lethality Xayah, the opportunity to really blow up a single target. Also, if your positioning is good and you play very defensively around these Kai'Sa dives and these killer instincts, what you can often do, actually, is immediately snap the Ahri or the Kai'Sa when they engage in, because you have a lot of damage. You have a Tryndamere who can tank up a lot, and then a Ghost gets on top of these very squishy members. BDD hits a big ult. You have kind of engage on days, or for days here. I'm going to eventually be able to speak sense, I swear. I have a lot of thoughts about this, okay?
Yeah.
And I do think it can work out, but on paper, I think DRX not only are playing a draft that is stronger for the meta, but it's a draft that they have already shown they can play so many times. It's kind of comfort for them.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. I'm looking forward to seeing how they're going to pilot it. A lot more pick-focused and reset-focused here on DRX's side this time around. What they found success with last week was a lot of dive, but giving away the Hecarim, they're doing their very best to try and answer it here. We've got a lot of fire and running happening towards the top side of the map. The Ignite and the Ghost. Not a lot of teleports, as is generally the case with Tryndamere lanes. There's BDD throwing out the DRX logo here, as of course back in the day. I think that was the Longzhu logo, actually. King Zone, whichever name you want to go with, just letting him know that he was there first. As Ghost taking a lot of damage here as he walks back. Not necessarily going to be winning in the lane very early on as the Xayah. Both of them handshaking as far as range is concerned. But you could imagine that in the early laning phase, the Xayah and Nautilus will have a few more buttons available to them.
That's true. And they should be able to get level 2 first. We'll see if it ends up happening in reality, especially with this back that he had to take here. Does give Deft a little bit of a positional advantage here. And Beryl, once he hits level 2, will be able to trade back, and it can be a very fiery lane. And I don't want to call it volatile, but if Deft makes a super play with Beryl and they end up getting a kill early with an effort over extension, we've seen a lot of those. We've seen Peter, especially, unfortunately, for Nongshim, a lot of errors in the early laning phase around level 2. Like, if he gets first blood, then this could be a disastrous lane. But, you know, it shouldn't happen. Not everybody knock on wood for a second, but we'll see how this one shapes up.
Yeah, right now, Nongshim have managed to catch the wave first. We'll see whether that means that they will be able to win that race to level 2.
Looks like it.
Yeah, Cathian Rain certainly is able to get a fair bit of damage, but still not going to get control of the wave just yet. As you can see, 3-0 for the Kai'Sa. This has been with different compositions, though, and so we'll see whether DRX are going to be able to make this one work, as Beryl's getting a little bit of a headbutt here, as Ghost takes a fair bit of damage, and you can see the tussling in the early stages aren't going too badly here for DRX.
Effort in a really nice spot here will force Beryl behind this turret. I'm just going to farm it out. Very excited to see how much Nongshim's comp does in the early game, especially around things like First Herald. BDD.
Yeah, right now, BDD is going to be struggling. There's the stun. The charm's going to land beautifully, and Zeka picks up first blood. All too easy.
It has just not been BDD's season, Atlas. I mean, remember we had him play the Corki early on, and he made a laning error there. This time, it's not the first time he's played the Azir into the Ahri, which has a lot of kill pressure when there's something like a Viego on the Rift who can easily set up for a charm or follow for a charm. They just didn't have vision whatsoever. He steps way too far forward there, is punished. Will be able to get right back to lane, of course, with his teleport. But this means Zeka has so much control over this lane and, of course, will pick up so much of that first blood gold. Or in fact, all of it. 400 gold early here for an Ahri, just really accelerating her. And Dread is in the vicinity, so that's why he feels okay about this, but just, I mean, Dreadstorm Raptors and
so perfect here for Pyosik as well.
It's really unfortunate. Really nice wave management there too from Zeka to kind of help set that up.
Yeah, very cleanly done. And also Dread now finds an empty lane, an empty jungle, sorry, so isn't going to be able to trade back too much because he does get some deep vision, but will then just have to go home. Pyosik once again towards the top side this time, and I want to talk about just how good that gank was, right? Because no flashes were invested. They got BDD's flash, and so now Pyosik's going to have so much more power in every subsequent gank because he had, you know, a whole bunch of extra gold. He is going to go back home now, spend a bunch of that money. But yeah, this is a really, really good start here for DRX.
It's really easy for a champion like Ahri to lane against the Azir when his Sand Soldiers are out, which he has to place down to, you know, lane, right, into last hit minions. So he can actually just avoid those and then toss his Orb of Deception in at an angle that is very difficult for BDD to play around. And when he has a lead like this in early Sork boots, it becomes even more frustrating when that damage is coming through, that harassment is coming through with the Foxfire. And so BDD, no flash here for this upcoming Rift Herald fight is going to be a big problem. One of the strongest champions, you know, at this early game is going to be the Azir. When you do hit that first fight, is you can see he's played it a lot throughout his career, 86 games in total.
Yeah, it's by far his most played. I mean, he will have flash available for when the Rift Herald comes.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess he will have it. He will have it, yeah.
Yeah. So that's okay, but it's whether or not Pyosik can get back to this lane, right? And the fact that Zeka is given all of this lane control. So still definitely a bad thing here for Nongshim. Yeah,
because, you know, Prio in this matchup usually will go to the Ahri player in general. Now it's, you know, going to be an even bigger issue.
Yeah. Well, Kingen snipping on Kana here, as you can see, is ahead by quite a bit. And is going to continue laning relatively well. Of course, Tryndamere, one of those things that kind of, he becomes pretty inevitable as the game goes on. And Kingen's going to cancel what felt like 7 auto attacks in a row.
Yeah, Gwen's attack animation gets kind of weird like that. She has that, like, really weird scissors animation.
He got zoned out of, like, 3 creeps of experience.
And he's back here now, but without 6, can't do anything. Kingen's got full stacks on his autos for the Q. So frustrating to lane against a good Gwen player.
Yeah, and Kingen has been very good recently.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed his Gangplank play in their most recent match. Kingen really has been one of the big success stories here for DRX. One of the players that really was struggling when DRX started so poorly.
Look at him deny the cannon as well.
Oh, no, he got it. Oh,
he got it. Okay, sorry. Just like, he did get it, in fact, but like, he lost a lot of his health bar for it.
Yeah.
And down now 18 CS. And I mean, right now, Kingen's in a position to continue to make this frustrating for the top Tryndamere, who doesn't have any support whatsoever from Dread at this stage. And when the Rift Herald spawns here in a minute and a half, right now, DRX, yes, it's only 1 kill that leaves. Hold that thought.
Ooh, that is dash now on cooldown, as Dread, knows that he can't actually fight Kingen, especially not without his ultimate. So Kingen's able to freely get in there, and not going to keep his ward hanging around or anything like that, but still. Kanna gets back to lane. Kingen, with both of his summoner spells, just going to wander back up there. Doesn't really want to go home just yet. Probably wants to get that Leeching Leer on the next back. As Charm's going to go wide. But DRX just cruising at this point in time. 1 minute until Shelly is on the map.
Yeah, and against a comp that is so good at fighting first Rift Herald with the Azir, the Hecarim, the Tryndamere, DRX getting an extra kill on the Ahri, having a 20 CS lead on the top side of the map, trying to get prio of the soul lanes, and really doing quite well at that so far here. Makes you wonder what Nongshim's plan is going to be around this, because you still have to fight for it, I think, with this comp. Not that they don't have some scaling of their own, but the ability for you to snowball the game and get advantages out of this draft relies on that first Rift Herald going your way. It's part of why you draft this way. But with some of the disadvantages they've picked up here early in these solo lanes, it's going to be a tough call to make. But can you just let it go and stay bottom with a Xayah? No, not really. You know, it's not one of those champions you want to just leave bottom side and say, well, we'll trade up, we'll get 2 plates at least. Not when this wave is crashing into the turret 10 seconds before the Herald.
Yeah, sort of has to stay there to get all of that extra experience. But as you can see, DRX, they are going to go back. No level 6 yet for either Beryl or Deft. So it does mean that, you know, Deft is not going to be able to get there quite as quickly. Of course, the range on Killer Instinct not necessarily massive at level 6, but still does give you that slight option. As you can see, Deft actually very vocal in the player cams. Pretty cool. Often does leave a lot of the communicating up to the rest of his team.
Yeah, especially with Beryl, you know, on this team.
Yeah, right.
As they are going to get here first. Ghost coming up after catching that wave, now rotating over, but the prio 100% to DRX. They have full control over this choke. Dread, nice flank angle though, but will Azir be able to ult here is the real question, and he's got a wave to catch.
Yeah, BDD is actually just going to stay in that lane, kind of with full rage, but it looks like Dread might have to just go for an attempted 50-50 or something like that, but not going to work. Pulverize is there. The stun comes down as well as the horse is trying to get out. Deft just rains the Acathian stuff on him. And he's going to be able to pick up the second kill here for DRX. But honestly, I mean, Nongshim, did they really have any right going for that right there? I don't really know.
It was such a wrong move to try to engage there. It was just desperation. And yes, like I said, this comp wants to get the Rift Herald fight, right? You've got a Hecarim, a Tryndamere, and a Azir. And even early, you know, the Xayah is quite strong at this stage. But when DRX are on top of it, they have the choke point controlled. They have an Ahri themselves to help disengage, and then Alistar, right? Like, it's so difficult to pull this one off when you have no prio. And BDD is losing minions in mid lane, you know, to come over here. He did actually catch the last parts of it, but it cost him the ability to rotate over faster. Look at the charm here onto Effort. They instantly blow up the Hecarim, who was trying to set up for that really nice flank ult. And then it's like, well, we charmed the support, we killed the Hecarim. You guys have no right to be here anymore. Easy Rift Herald.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's just about those early lanes going so well for DRX, getting an advantage. And then Nongshim didn't really have much recourse. Because, like I said, you know, if you stay as Xayah bottom side, you know, it's not very safe. You're not going to get too much out of it. You're not going to be able to trade up in plates.
I mean, I kind of disagree. I actually sort of think that they should have given up the Rift Herald completely and left Ghost there. If they saw that it was going to be DRX making the full investment, they lost the Rift Herald anyway, right? So you may as well leave Ghost down there actually getting something.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only other choice, right? Like, if they leave him here, then maybe he gets one plate, or at least he gets a little bit of extra minions. But, you know, if you're deciding you're going to go, he has to be there. You know, if everyone else is going to rotate over and you're actually going to commit to the fight, then he has to be there. But they were too slow.
Yeah. Well, DRX now looking to try and grab even more, as right now, perfect game pace, ladies and gentlemen.
There we go.
Yeah. They are going to be able to grab this, though. It looks like they will just clean up all of the priority. And Nongshim with, you know, Azir, Tryndamere, Xayah, things like this. A lot of late game power. Maybe less theoretically with the lethality style Xayah that we can see Ghost is going for. But still going to be relatively safe. Throws out Feather Storms, you know, gets a lot of damage there. And they have a fair bit of AoE. As Zeka going to move on forward. Charm's going to miss. As the Shifting Sands do some weird stuff, but BDD is still able to get himself out of the way.
We're going to drop the Herald.
Yeah, still come through here, and regardless of BDD getting out, not having to flash, things like that, they are still going to give up some plate gold here. And Dread's going to come over, gives away his position, and it is just going to be that money invested in immediately to try and get Zeka slight more advantage.
Yeah, putting him ahead here quite significantly. Already picked up the first blood, and he's really having a great time in this early game. So far, BDD not able to threaten him really. And Dread has been outside of the attempted flank there to try to have a nice ult in to turn that fight around the Rift Herald. It's just otherwise somewhat invisible this game. As you know, Pioshik doesn't get the flash this time around, but 2 successful ganks you could say, because this one leads to a Herald drop. Picking up plates. Yeah. DRX 2,000 gold ahead. That's their goal here, you know, nearly at 12 minutes. 1,600 at the moment.
And they have another one of these compositions that snowballs very effectively. As Charm is going to connect there onto BDD. As there's the flash. The Spirit Rush is just a little bit too strong, though, as Zeka gets himself out of the way. No need to flash or anything like that, as Effort did have to use his. Kingen now taking a little bit of aggression from Canna, but I don't think Kingen's going to be too worried for the foreseeable future, as that's a big pulverize onto Effort, but he's going to dredge line out. Of course, pretty powerful ability here, as Deft was bullying Ghost in the 1v1 on the bottom side of the map.
They had so many control wards here, putting this pressure on right now, you know, as Nongshim somewhat face up because they knew where the Nautilus was. Zeka, like you said, doesn't have to flash. Nautilus does, has his Spirit Rush available, so fairly safe to be where he was. Gets away, Deft picking up a plate down here. I mean, it's all going well for DRX, but you know, they have so much deep vision. There's some of these control wards being cleared now, but look at the ward behind BDD's turret, the one below it, behind the Drake pit. They have Scuttle bottom side.
Yeah.
There's no play that you can make as Effort, unfortunately, in this moment. And while you're gone, Deft's pushing.
Yeah, and they've got, you know, that slightly deep vision on the top side there to try and spot Kyoshik out, but it's not getting any information right now, and you have to have vision where you need it, right? As you can see, DRX, they want to be able to get rotations towards that bottom side, as you can see. There is now some counter vision here from Nongshim, who managed to put down that controller, but you can see immediately Beryl walks on over, goes possibly out of position here. That is the Featherstorm to come through. The flash has to come out. Every button Ghost had to be used, and it was just a cow walking at him.
Yeah, didn't even flash, does not commit the ignite, and Beryl's threat there pushes an ult out, pushes a flash out. No summoners up for Ghost now, and Deft's like, well, you know.
Yeah, goes and grabs the plate.
Yeah, gonna grab a plate, and this game, I mean, DRX are winning it in every lane, in every way.
Well, now we're going to go for a bit of a dive here as the Gwen. Let's see how immune she's going to be. Not very is going to be kind of the answer, as Canna tanks for a very long time, but does eventually get his way out. But Kyoshik with the Heartbreaker is going to be able to come through, grab that kill. Now Canna without an ult. Kyoshik is a horse and is pretty scary. Is going to ult over the wall and gets the stun. Can he actually lock down the kill, though, is the question, as, yeah, Red Smite, not quite enough. But Zeka, yeah, he's got Spirit Rush. There is no way out here for Canna, who's trying to do some alcove gaming, but there is a ward that they prepared earlier, as Canna is just dead. Yep, Zeka is trying to, you know, just account for any sort of potential juke, and they tidy up 2-for-1 in the end. And
unfortunately for BDD, because plates are down here, you know, 40 seconds ago, he's not able to grab a plate. He will be able to push some of the CS into the turret, but guess who's there to catch it? It's Deft. Now, bottom side here also, Kingen had enough time to respawn. He's coming over here. I do appreciate the positioning here of Effort, try to zone him out right now, but there's no follow-up damage. And Kingen will be able to get onto this turret freely, avoids the dredge line here. And man, DRX are just trading up in all aspects, barrel headed over.
Yeah, you can see, like, King is not even scared about this.
Nope.
Effort, he's got Glacial Augment, so he's not exactly going to be able to tank for any effective amount of time. Of course, you know, it's a better rune, but still, diving less valuable, and so Kingen just not scared. Not scared whatsoever. He's got Riftmaker done.
Yeah, he's got Riftmaker done. He dies on the top side, but trades his life for 2 kills. As look at where Viego is on the minimap when this happens. Kingen kind of baits this in as he's hoping to survive long enough here, as unfortunately Viego isn't able to come over here in time to make this a trade immediately, but he still gets on top of Dread here. W forward, Heartbreaker gets the kill, and then look who's coming, Zeka over here as well, so Kyoshik does end up buying enough time here. Kana has to go up, and Zeka will Spirit Rush to chase him down. And notice again on the minimap, there's not really anything that is going well for Nongshim. They committed their resources topside, traded down.
Yeah, well, Ghost now has his ult back up, but no summoner spells. As you can see, Shirley is going to make a visit to this mid lane outer turret. That is the second Rift Herald to cram her skull into this particular objective. And this second one will be the charm, as Deft comes over, grabs some local gold, supercharger to get out of the way of the dredge line. As he's still standing on vision. As you can see, this Drake is alive right now. Zeka's going to meet Canna on the top side. As without the Ahri, maybe DRX are going to be a little less gung-ho about going towards the Drake, but kind of doubt it, as they do have the Viego sneaking down towards that bottom side.
Yeah, Ahri now laning into the Tryndamere on the top side here. Barrow going to be a bit of a bodyguard, as he's going to take so much damage from this Ahri at this stage. He's got his X-Tech Alternator online.
Oh, this is... The fact that you can have Kyoshik down here taking this Infernal Drake, as well as Beryl roaming all the way towards the top side to just look for something potentially, just shows how far ahead DRX are when it comes to map control.
There's just... They have 2 waves controlled right now, and Deft is happy to just catch mid. So the 2 more important ones on top and bottom around these objectives go their way. And This has been the story of this game for DRX all game long. It's just Prio has won them this game. They've made plays based on the Prio they have, and it all goes back to that Rift Herald call for Nongshim. You know, if Ghost just catches the wave and stays there, maybe hides for a minute, then goes over, then maybe Def doesn't react quickly enough, and you get maybe a plate, you at least get something, but you lose the Rift Herald and lose the team fight and don't get any of the farm.
Yeah, it's when you commit to something that you're not in a position to actually win, and then like you sort of like do everything in half measures. Like, understand that you don't have positional advantage around the Rift Herald, and therefore don't go for it. Get everything elsewhere. This is something that T1 learned extraordinarily well. Trading objectives, picking up the ones that you can get, and giving away the ones you cannot.
And even though their comp is supposed to have good Rift Herald fight, they lost Prio super hard. And to be fair, like the lanes they have too aren't guaranteed Prio, but they just have a really good team fighting comp at level 6, 7, 8, right around that first Herald.
Yeah,
but like you said, like you didn't have the control, like you didn't have the opportunity to use that. So you just have to go, well, I really wish we could have fought. Like our comp is really good for that, but we don't have Prio, we don't have any control, we don't have any vision, and we have to walk into a choke. So we just probably shouldn't do that.
Yeah. Well, we'll see whether anything else can come of this one, as now Kingen just snip and counter. Oh man, snip really starting to hurt here, as Kanna's going to move his way out. And Kingen having just the best time on this Gwen, going towards his Nash's Tooth as item number 2. And Dread's going to come on over. They did manage to do this last time around, as already the Needlework's coming out. Kanna has to ult pretty quickly here as he gets underneath the turret, but it's not going to be enough. Effort is going to go golden, but I have a feeling he might still be dead. Yep. Pyoshik, oh no, burning down. There we go. Pyoshik picks up the kill. In the end, it's a 1-for-1 cross map, as the tower does also fall down. So Nongshim actually trading up here.
Yeah, Nongshim trading up, but will Ghost survive is the question. Barrel's here.
Yeah, well, he's got Featherstorm first, then he flashes, Barrel ults, but he's still taking a lot of damage. Good heal comes out from Deft, and no one's tanking the turret anymore. BDD comes on over, though, as now Pyoshik trying to fight it off, but he's not going to quite get there. Great movement from BDD. Gets himself out of the way of the stun, and they are going to be able to lock down Pyoshik.
Yeah, with Conqueror procking there, I respect his flash. Don't know if it was 100% necessary, but better safe than sorry in a moment like this. If you end up trading 1-for-1 here, you're like, oh, how many times is this going to happen? As that was a trade up for Nongshim, you know, across the map. Then Ghost survives here. BDD survives as well, picking up that kill onto Pyoshik. Nice punish, using Zaya's mobility here. Very defensively.
Yep, and like it's diving a Zaya, right? It's always a bit of a nasty time.
In between turrets, you know. But, I mean, look, DRX still in full control. They have a lot of deep vision around the bottom side of the map. Still 2 minutes to go before that Drake comes up. As we're going to go back to the second dive onto King, and that's successful. And as soon as the show happens, on the bottom side, they're committing, right? And they do end up trading this 1-for-1, as I'm sure that's going to be the second part of this replay. Pyoshik here in position. Efforts coming down to try to protect BDD, but they didn't know where Pyoshik was. And unfortunately, just pathing in the wrong angle here, because they didn't know exactly where Pyoshik was. They knew he was probably in the vicinity, because he definitely wasn't helping out top side.
And Emperor's Divide was a little bit odd, but this Featherstorm is exactly what you needed to do.
Yeah, so well done. The follow-up CC there. And they're able to chase with a really nice shuffle from BDD.
Not sure about whether the flash was all that necessary, but I think that better be safe than sorry, especially in a game state like this. Still 4,000 gold to lead. Approaching 5 for DRX, and they have a comp that's very happy to play around this mid-game with the side lane power that they have with this Gwen, as well as Zekka, who can get a lot of work done. Does have this Horizon Focus already completed. That's 2 items done now already.
Horizon Focus, I think, is the item we should be seeing on Aries who get ahead like this into comps that want to run at her. Speaking of running at her.
Yeah. Ocean Rift makes pick comps even more powerful.
Yes.
Normally, I am the biggest fan of Cloud Rift, obviously. But for a comp like this, it feels great. Effort, getting that ward down feels real good to do.
Yeah.
That's value right there. Does immediately die, however. You're still going to be very happy.
All right, 20 seconds to go for this one. DRX looking for a pick right before. They still don't lose anything from this group up, though, because they have the Prio.
Yep.
One angle for Nongshim is Kana down here on the bottom side, but if he has to ult early, then that's going to be, you know, that big tool they had wasted.
And remember as well, Effort doesn't have Stopwatch because that was gained last time, and that means that things like this are going to be valuable. Void Seeker comes down. Effort still at 50% as Pyoshik holding on to the aggro of this Drake for now, as Nongshim grouped up and in position. Look for Dread, look for BDD. They are the most important. As Dread goes in, the headbutt to immediately get him out. Beryl in a bit of trouble right now. They do manage to take the Drake. Beryl taken down first, but it's effort that falls at the same time. The snips aren't necessarily going to work out, but it's a double kill for Deft. He's at 100 health as Zeka's flashing away. He is going to survive for the moment. Decent charm is there. And that stopwatch, I don't know whether that was necessary as he was real dead. Killer Instinct comes in as Dread is now going to fall. Theoretically a triple kill now for Deft in this fight. As now Pyosik is cantering after BDD. Horse versus Pigeon doesn't seem like it's all that close, but still, BDD is going to make it to the mid lane and is going to be okay for now.
Yeah, Deft was like, I am just going to go get minions. I don't think that is a chase we want to play, especially with the resources that BDD has available right now as Ultimate online. So Pyosik will just go over here and catch this wave, but it's a really nice team fight setup here for DRX. The problem is they take a ton of damage on their way to take the Drake. So these health bars are extremely low. Kana is winning out in this side battle against Kingin pretty significantly, and Dread turns on him. But Deft is the real story here because he gets extremely low but doesn't die. Zeka, also same story for him, is able to hit this charm over the wall. Nice stopwatch here. And Deft just keeps the longevity of this team fight alive and will eventually close out Dread. Most important part of this is they secure the Drake.
Yeah.
Full point goes into their favor. Definitely could have been a cleaner fight for DRX, a little bit more decisive, but they do get the objective in the end. They weren't looking for a team fight as much as they were looking for the Drake, which is why they were willing to lose the fight and lose those health bars in order to guarantee we've got Drake Prio, we're going to hit this smite, we're actually going to commit and focus the Drake instead of looking for a turn. Respect them for that choice because with the gold lead they already have, the soul is the most important part of this, and they've got soul point now.
And holding on to macro control of this game with a composition like this, being able to pull Nongshim around the map, being able to give up Drakes if you want to secure a Baron and things like this, especially when you've got Gwen with her Nash's Tooth completed and this Kai'Sa who's got 3 items done, one of them being a Kraken Slayer. Like, Baron dies instantly.
Yep.
Like, straight up instantly. And Nongshim, they're able to get towards a Baron as well. I mean, yes, they have Lethality Eye, not necessarily the best, but this is the Liandry's on an Azir, like, and a Tryndamere, right? They have so much Baron damage themselves. So DRX being able to get control of the pit and being the ones that can make that move first, definitely going to be valuable, as that's a lot of Sand Soldiers trying to stop Pyosik and Beryl from getting in there, and they are actually going to gatekeep very effectively.
Yeah, I mean, they use your Everfrost here, but it's not too important, and end up getting some of this vision away now as DRX. And you have this choke controlled, you have a control ward on the brush that Zeka's standing in, so no one can really be near this until they drop one of their own. But once again, just being focused and cleared. Look at all the vision removal here that DRX are putting in.
Yeah. It's not Beryl on a flank, though, as that is a nice charm, and Zeka goes back in again as well. Effort. He's going to have to go back and recharge that health bar, and now DRX get full control of this mid lane. That was actually really, really cool from Zeka, although he does now have to go back himself, taking a lot of subsequent damage there from mainly BDD, who's been doing a lot of great things when it comes to these sort of stalemates that we're seeing in our K-Rams.
Yeah, in these neutral fights, you know, his Sand Soldier positioning has been very good. He's positioned himself very well, even though he did die early on in this game with an overextension in lane. You know, he's starting to scale up pretty nicely. You mentioned his Liandry's build here. And when he does start to do longer form damage in these fights, like we saw also even on that last Drake fight, it's pretty terrifying for DRX because they want to end these fights as soon as possible. They want to pick somebody, ult in as Deft, get a kill, and then win the subsequent man-up fight, or 2-man-up if you're lucky enough.
That's the initial pick that you really need.
Yeah.
With, you know, the fact that you want to get Pyosik to possess people and Zeka to get more essences and things like this. There is a lot of reset potential for how this goes. Really, really cool the way DRX have made this one work. We've still got to see it in action properly in these 5v5s, but getting that vision control, which is something they've been trying to do, is certainly very, very valuable.
Yeah, it's crazy how much vision control can empower a pick comp like this, and as you mentioned, the Ocean Rift makes it stronger too. You know, if your opponent's got one eye closed walking into a team fight, you know, it doesn't matter how well you play it, you're usually going to have a pretty inherent advantage, so.
Yep. Zhonya's now completed, actually pretty big there for Zeka, as we saw he broke his stopwatch in that last team fight, but will now have that stasis available once again. Pyosik walks over and is spotted by that control ward, so his mist not quite as valuable in that area. Nongshim just K-ramming it up. As 20 seconds until this Ocean Soul is on the Rift. DRX, they have control of the area. Soul is going to be very, very valuable. You can see Nongshim actually committing more to this mid lane rather than moving into the river, as now Pulverize is going to come in. Effort is going to have to go golden. Does so immediately. Ghost has to flash, get himself out of the way. Def trying to be the hero in the backline, and he avoids the ult from BDD by just pressing the best button in the game. That is, of course, the stopwatch. Tryndamere gets one, so Def will get shut down. But at what cost? They will lose the soul, and it might be even more.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be more, I think, here is scary observing right now with the back placement there for Dread, but he will get away with this. Going to be Soul, going to be a Baron here for DRX. They're going to pick the Baron up first. And they've got Soul. Actually, Piershik was on this the whole time, so they're just going to set it up here. I mean, look, you could do it in any order at this point. This is a choose-your-own-adventure game for DRX after that beautiful team fight for them. Stopwatch was great for Deft. He was so perfectly positioned, too, in the back of the fight. There's no escape for Nongshim. The engage also onto Effort early on, who went for a Zhonya, so loses a lot of utility that you could have had from, like, Locket, for example. And he doesn't save himself, right? He's not peeling. He's not doing his Nautilus functions because he's in stasis, and DRX just collapse in so quickly.
Man, look at this. The Fox and the Cow just patrolling the area, making sure that they can lock down this Baron. They do so. They get the Soul, they get the Baron. We're an Elder away from Exodia here for DRX. We have a look at this fight one more time. Zeka has been so good this game.
So they're on top of Effort, and he gets charmed, and then Beryl is knocking.
Stopwatch, Def.
Beryl is knocking everybody else off, and then Def just decides, okay, I'm ulting and I have Stopwatch. I'm completely safe to do this. There's no risk involved. We've already got the initial pick. And the follow-up is so easy when you execute a single target like this. And like you said, Zek is having the game of his life.
Yeah, he's having a really, really good one. Deft falling down there, and actually the kill going over to Canna as well is, as you can see, important. He's now 800 gold ahead of Kingen, who we saw hold on to a CS advantage throughout the entirety of the early stages of the game. I don't know whether it's going to be enough to get Canna into any sort of game-winning position in a side lane. However, still definitely very good news here for Nongshim as Ghost. Yeah, just takes a Void Seeker to the face. And that's going to be the ult in. Featherstorm going to be used there as Def takes a fair bit of damage from the Blade Caller, but not that much, and not enough to get the stun as far as feathers on the ground.
Trades of ults just for a turret. You've got the Baron buff. Might as well go for it, because while you're pulling resources mid, Kingan's got this bottom turret going down, and even if Kana gets this top inner, which he does not have time to do, he is going to back off. But even if he did, what would it really change? What would it accomplish? He needs to be here defensively now because inhibitors are on the line here.
Yep.
A minute and 30 left. He needs to be here to look for a flank angle, but no vision whatsoever. So much peel with the charm.
And now Ghost, like you can see him standing near that minion wave. He has to be so much more careful now, right? Because he doesn't have his Featherstorm. It is going to be up again relatively soon. But still, getting that window there for DRX, certainly a good option as BDD comes down, gets a fair bit of damage onto Kingen. He still needs to be somewhat respected on this Azir, because he does do a lot of damage over time if he's actually able to let his Sand Soldiers hit in fights. But we're sitting at an 8,000 gold lead for DRX, and so their wallets are starting to get pretty heavy. As that's the flash forward depth charge. Yeah, it's not really what we wanted to see there, Effort, unfortunately. As Pulverize, I don't think is off cooldown just yet. Effort's going to die. Def zoned out of this fight for a little while, and in fact, Effort has his Zhonya's back up and available yet again. So slight overextension here for DRX as Kingan's not able to punish anyone. Some low health bars, but no one to actually lock them down.
Right now, you know, the big issue here for DRX was that they don't have a lot of range damage to actually follow up on engage, and the main source of damage for them long-term in these fights, and the pick potential is on this Ahri, who notice at the beginning of this fight is actually charming a Tryndamere, which is important because if Tryndamere is on top of DRX here, they can actually get locked in and more people than two die. But because he's actually trading with Kana while he ults, he isn't actually doing any big orb damage in this fight or getting any sort of Everfrost value. And Kingan was so helpful. He's like, oh man, I'm actually Gwen, and everyone's in a choke point, and everyone's at half health, but it's just not enough at this stage for him to actually commit in further. Does now have his Zhonya's completed. I think a little bit disjointed there for DRX.
Yeah, having a look at what Beryl actually did there, because I was sort of like ready for DRX to find a dive that worked, but he headbutted a Zhonya's at the ready Nautilus out towards Deft, and then he had Zhonya's dredge line, the CC onto the Cow. Like, yeah, it was an odd maneuver. So let's see whether that is going to be something that allows Nongshim to find their way back into the game. I have a feeling that it's not going to be the case, but definitely a bit of a whoopsie there.
Yeah, and both inhibitors live, and both inhibitor turrets live, so it does buy a lot of time here for Nongshim. And In terms of time, obviously the Azir is going to become a bigger and bigger problem if we do go into this game for another 10 minutes or so. If DRX start losing control of these Drakes, for example, and, you know, Nongshim has Prio and can start to slowly do that damage, that's going to be an issue. Plus Tryndamere later on. He's already, you know, quite built with his items, but if he gets a few more, then he can also start to threaten, you know, inhibitors himself in the side lane.
Oh, yeah.
It's not over till the fat lady sings, as we like to say here at the LCK, but you know, Nongshim still need a few more things to go their way.
Yeah,
that was one
step.
step.
She's warming her voice up. She's definitely, you know, had her ginger tea and stuff like that. She is well and truly feeling it. But when in doubt, just set up a gank rush. As Beryl just walks forward, they do manage to find the stun. Effort's got so much value out of this Zhonya's, it's ridiculous. He's still going to die, but certainly a cool move as in goes Beryl, finds the three-man pole. That's what we were waiting for. The master of the cow, but Canna is there, not actually able to press his ult button in time, unfortunately, is now can Zeka tidy this one up? Defter stands his ground. He manages to get into his GA as well as PDD. He's going to go golden and observe what the world looks like just before he moves towards the death chamber and the gray screen. And DRX, I have a feeling, may have just done it.
That was just a bank account fight, basically.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't the cleanest engage for DRX, but it was 8 champions all on top of the same pixel, and then eventually Deft was like, okay, well, I did a lot of damage, and my GA popped, and we win because we have way more items than you. As it was well played by Effort, but it's not enough in the end. He will be the last to die, it looks like, this game.
Not sure what that was about, but still, this game was well and truly over. DRX are able to take down the Nexus and win game number 1, further solidifying